Jack. So, okay, so this morning we are gonna do our bees. So we're gonna do this little guy this morning. As per you guys, you wanted to do the bees, so we are working on bees today. Okay, so this morning we're gonna start out making the bees body. I have some banana cake here that I made. So we're going to go ahead and make some cake balls. Let me just move that a little bit farther out of the way. So, gloves. I even laid them on top so I wouldn't forget to put them on this morning. All right. Did you guys have a great weekend? I had a very, very busy one, but it was very productive. So I slept for 2 days to try to catch up on my rest that I didn't have last week. And now we're ready to start a new week. So, all right, so here we go. We're going to make 3. I think we're going to do 3 balls this morning. 1 is all we need, but we always make extra just in case something happens. You never know. It might fall off the stick. It might break. It might crack, who knows. So we just make the extra so we don't have to backtrack. So here is 3. And this is such a lovely dough. I think I'm actually going to give you guys this recipe for this banana cake because it makes just in and of itself. Good morning, Sharon. Thanks for joining. This makes such a lovely cake pop dough and it tastes amazing. So, okay, here we go. I'm just going to, first of all, squeeze those air pockets if there's any there. I'm going to squeeze them out and then I'm going to roll it in the natural direction that I am accustomed to rolling to make sure that there's no air bubbles in there. Remember, air bubbles inside your cake pops will cause your stick not to stick very well, and you run the risk of your cake ball falling off your stick. So I'm just smoothing and smushing and smoothing and pushing and rolling in my natural direction. And then once I feel it coming together, I'm going to go backwards. And that actually, for whatever reason, causes a nice, perfectly round ball. So I'm going to take this ball that I just did, and now I'm going to kind of roll it out to like a sausage link. I'm going to form the body of our bee. So I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. Just keeping it nice and smooth all over. Okay, so we have this nice little rounded sausage leg. Now I'm going to separate the head from the thorax because our bees have 3 body parts. It has a head, a thorax in the center, and then its abdomen. And I'm going to just kind of keep the thorax and the abdomen together because we're doing this cartoony little bee. So I'm just going to separate the head. I'm going to use my nail to actually create a spot for his neck, a separation. I'm going to go the whole way around him. So, and then I'm just going to smooth it out so it's not a sharp edge that separates his head from his body. But I definitely want that indentation there. Okay, I'm just going to smooth that out and then smooth where my thumbprint is to his thorax and his abdomen. I just want to make sure that's all nice and smooth. So it's a nice level thing. It's not any sharp edges or anything. So I'm just smoothing that out. So we end up looking like this. So we have a head, where his neck's at, and then his thorax and his body. Okay? So I'm going to do that to the other 2. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the stick on. Those of you guys that know, have been around me long enough and watched these tutorials know that I choose to double dip my stick. I don't know if you can see, if the camera picks it up, but I dip my sticks about 1 inch down in a white chocolate, or this particular instance it was cream because I didn't have any white, but I dip it about 1 inch down I want to create a barrier between my paper on my stick and whatever oils or fats, the fat contents, whatever leaches from your cake pop dough. So that's what we're going to do. So I dip the first time 1 inch. So the second time I'm going to dip, I'm only going to dip half of that. So half of this, my ½ inch, I'm just going to dip it in my chocolate and then tap off the excess. Okay. Now, when we're talking center of gravity, our little bee guy, the separation between his head and his thorax, if we would put it right in the center, then the weight of his backside is going to be heavier than the front side. So if you don't have your cake pop completely without air pockets, it has a tendency to want to slide backwards. His head would tilt up higher, his butt would go farther to the ground because gravity takes effect. So we want to make sure that when we put in our stick, we're going to put it at the right angle, at the right location, so that the weight on both sides of the stick is going to be pretty close to even. And that's why we need to make sure that we align our center of gravity correctly. I hope that makes sense. I think the first time that I did the cardinal, I talked a lot about center of gravity as well. I think that's when it was. Please go back and watch that one if you haven't. All right, so right where I put the center line, or separated the line between his head and his body, it's angled upwards, and then when you find the widest point on the rounded part of his thorax, that's where we're going to want to put that stick, because the bulk of the weight is behind him. So we need to put it back further than halfway, but right where, I'm going to make sure he's in the middle, right where the high point of the round part of his belly is. I hope that makes sense. So as I stick my lollipop stick in, I'm going to push it in, and I'm going to turn it clockwise, not quite a full turn. And then I'm going to spin it backwards about 1/4 of a turn, because I want the chocolate that's on the stick to start grabbing the chocolate that I just put on the yellow, and that yellow chocolate to grab a hold of the cake pop dough. All that friction in there creates heat. So that heat, I want to grab a hold of the cake pop dough, and when you know it grabs, it's going to stay on your stick. My pop stick, so I'm just going to go ahead and dip this one. I always dip at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to push it into the chocolate, and I'm going to spin it and pull backwards until that chocolate touches itself. So I'm going to push it in. I don't have enough chocolate in my thing, so I'm going to tilt it forward. I'm going to push it in, and then I'm going to spin it backwards just until that chocolate touches itself. And then I'm just going to tap off the excess, or I'm shaking it off. All right, so now while I'm letting this drip, I need to pull off or pop all these little air bubbles. Those of you guys that have watched my videos, I apologize for the repeats. However, it is such an important topic that I want to make sure that I cover it with all the new ones that are currently watching today. So air bubbles are not your friend. All right, we're going to make wings first, and then we're going to make his eyes. Those of you guys that have watched my tutorials know that I really like to make my own eyes. I can make the character in their eyes. Eyes are the windows to the soul. So we want our little characters to have flair. So I'm going to take my modeling chocolate. Those of you guys that thank you. I'm glad it's good. If it's not, just go ahead and pop in the chat there and we'll try to get it fixed. All right, so those of you guys that know that I do everything with modeling chocolate, if you haven't watched the video, go back and watch the modeling chocolate tutorial on how to make it. I use modeling chocolate with just about every one of my creations. So that's what we're going to work with today. I've got white and I've got black. We're going to make the eyes. We've got a white modeling chocolate to make the eyes, and then we've got the black for the pupil, and then we're going to do white wings. All right. In order to make the eyes, I use my regular tips, my icing tips. So I've got a Wilton number 12 for the white part of the eye, and then I'm going to use a number 6 for the pupil. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to cut out a couple of them. 1, 2. I always cut out extra just in case. There's 4. I don't like that one. There's 4. Okay, we'll put that one aside for a moment. And while I have the white already here, I'm going to make his wings. And with that, I'm going to use this flower cutter. This actually is a leaf cutter for a rose. So it's just the right size for on his back. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to cut out some wings while I have this here. So there's 1. It's definitely warm. There's 2. I'm going to cut out an extra set just in case. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and roll this up. I want to be able to connect his wings to his back right behind the first stripe. And in order to do that, I don't want the point there. I want to be able to round it and then connect that wing directly up against that stripe so it looks like it's really coming out of his back. So in order to do that, I'm going to take my little wings and I'm going to take my cutter again, and I'm going to go backwards, and I'm just going to take the edge off. I'm going to take about it's not even 1/4 of an inch. I'm just going to take that point part off. I'm just going to cut it off. Try it again on the other one. So now we have 2 wings. We're just going to put them aside. We're going to go ahead and do the eyes like this. And usually when I do eyes, I do, 50 or 100 at a clip. So I'll put some music on and listen to it when I just make a bunch of eyeballs. Jeez. Huh. Things are just flying today. All right. So there's 1. There's 2. So that's 1 set. Let's do another one just in case. And you could buy eyes. They make candied eyes that you can put on there, but I just think that they're just hard, and sometimes the view of them isn't nice. When they put the chocolate on, or not the chocolate, but the black paint on the top of the white candied eye, it's all smudged and smeared and throw it out. All right, so we're going to do chocolate to chocolate. So we're going to use a little bit of water. Water is our glue. A little water goes a long way. I'm just going to put a little bit of water in the center of each eyeball. That wasn't in the center, so we'll move that water drop. We're going to take our black pupil, put it on our eye. There we go, we have an eye. I'm going to do another one. Put that in the center. All right, and then I'm just going to take a dry part of my glove, just push it down, make sure it sticks. Oh, I squished the whole eye on that one. And that's why we make more than one. Stuck to my glove. All right, so here we go. We have this nice long rectangular piece, and we're going to make stripes. Now, I am a quilter, and I have so many of these rulers, and it's clear, you can see through it. I confiscated one from my quilting days and, you know, Cloroxed it really, really well. And now it's part of my tools for the trade for cake pops, because now I can cut nice straight lines. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. All right, so I'm just going to cut the bottom part off. I just need a nice straight edge. I'm going to up against my ruler, nice straight edge. So there we go. We're going to move this out of the way. We don't need it. All right. Now I'm only going to do 1/8 of an inch, and I like this ruler because it has these little tag marks here. So I'm just going to line up my 1/8 of an inch mark along that black. I'm going to use my blade. I'm going to cut that nice and straight. I put just a little bit of pressure on my ruler so my chocolate underneath does not move. And now I have my stripe. So, and I'm going to need 2 of them, so let me just go ahead and cut that second one. I already know that. So again, I'm going to line up that 1/8 of an inch mark because I want 3 stripes on my little bumblebee. Okay, now we can shift that out of the way, so we have now 2 that we can work with. Again, we need some glue, so I'm going to use some water. I'm going to start underneath at his neck, right at the neck, like so. And then I'm just going to let gravity do its thing, like this. I'm just going to let it roll. Let me untwist it first. Make sure it's straight, and I'm just going to let it roll until it catches up to the other side of it. I'm just going to go right over top of it so I know where to cut the longer piece. So underneath this top one, I can see the edges of where the one is underneath. So I'm just going to cut it right at that edge. And now we can smooth it together by using the edge of your palette knife, because it's chocolate and it does that. And now you no longer see where it's at. And then I just take my finger and press the rest of it down against my little bee. So let's put our little wings on. Wipe off there. Again, we're going to use water as glue. And I'm just going to do at the bottom edge about 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. I don't want the top to be wet, but I'm going to take it and put it, I'm going to start the inside of his wing just off center, and I'm only going to push down on that 1/8 of an inch right behind that stripe, and I'm going to force that chocolate into an angle like so. Okay, we're going to put that second wing. We're just going to leave a little space between it, not much. Stick it in my glove. All right, and there we go. Now his wings are on. All we have to do is put his eyes on. Again, we're going to use a little bit of water as glue. There's one eye. I just want them barely touching. I'm just going to push them down too hard. Too much water. They'll slide. All right, so there we go. Now we have both eyes on there. Now all we have to do is paint his little mouth. And you can paint whatever kind of mouth you want on him. just a little bit darker. All right, and then I'm just going to put some eyebrows on them. Oh, I was shaking. That's what gives him character, right? All right, so we've got his eyebrows and his mouth on there. And then I just want to give him that twinkle in his eyes. So I'm going to take white poppy paint. I didn't shake it up. White poppy paint, because each one has their own character and own flair. I just put one in the top corner on both sides. And there you go. We are done. There you go. All right, so, okay, if you guys have a suggestion for 2 weeks, please drop it in our Facebook page. Ask, I will do my best to help you out. And if there is any other questions, I will answer them. Then just drop them. I'll answer them. Otherwise, have a wonderfully blessed week. Go out, be creative, stretch your abilities. You can do this. I know you can do it. Watch my videos over and over again if you need to and work along with it. Go out this week and make some modeling chocolate and play with it. It's like playing with silly putty or Play-Doh. Just try it. You won't know until you try it. So, okay, guys, have a blessed day, and I will see you soon. See you guys.